All right, folks, we're back with another edition of the Red and White Podcast. I'm Evan, here with my co-host Dustin, and we are going to talk about the most depressing week of NC State football that I can remember.
Yeah. Did you think he was going to make the kick?
I did.
Yeah, I did too. That made it worse.
I thought he was going to make it because it was straight on, because it was, all the factors were there. But I was watching the game out of town with a couple of friends of mine who are not State fans, don't really pay attention to it. Before the game, I was talking about the struggles that our kicker has. So I expected something along those lines. It still doesn't sting any less that I expected it to a degree. I just thought he was going to make it. I thought it was an easy enough kick that he was going to make it.
Yeah, I was watching it, kind of the ultimate awful situation. I was watching at the home of Clemson grads who live in Chapel Hill.
Oh, Jesus.
So it was bad. The whole thing felt wrong. So it might be my fault, but no, I mean, it was a chip shot, a little more than an extra point. I was apparently one of the few who was good with coaching to make the kick, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense, and I don't think you're alone.
People were upset, and I just don't get it.
Here's the way I look at it, right? You can second guess and you can nitpick all you want, but if you started this game and said we'd have a 33-yard straight field goal to beat Clemson at home, you would take it 10 out of 10 times.
Oh, yeah.
And whether or not you can second guess, they should have run Matt Days a little more. Why did you try to roll out? Well, they tried to roll out, or they tried to throw a little play action because they were trying to be aggressive. Finley did what he needed to do. It wasn't there. Clemson blew it up. He took a dive in the middle of the field, straight on field goal. I take those chances all day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what you do. You have to trust the kicker's going to make that.
Yeah.
That's fundamental football. That was set up perfectly. Coaching didn't make the kick go wide right. And I don't know, I was just seeing so much stuff of, Doran lost that game, mismanaged. No, he didn't. He outcoached Dabo on Saturday.
100%.
Yeah, the whole game.
100%. Top to bottom, our coaches had a better game plan. They executed better. And they were ready to play. And you can say, Clemson turned it over 5 times. That wasn't because they were playing the School for the Blind here. The guys are playing hard.
Yeah.
They give them some credit there. Deshaun Watson's first ever pick 6. I mean, we played tough defense. They did exactly what they wanted them to do. They weren't going to let Clemson throw any big bombs. They let them get some underneath stuff. Whatever. Not a big deal. Top to bottom, we won that game. I just, I don't understand the disconnect between the people who think that was Doran's fault that we lost that game. I mean, you have to play for your kicker, albeit didn't have a great year last year. He's 4 for 5 this year, or he was 4 for 5 this year.
Right.
So you play for it, right? You gotta have trust that the kid can make a 33-yard field goal straight on. Now, do you trust him in that same situation again? I don't know, but at that time, that's the right play. That's the right call.
You still have to trust him.
I mean, you have no other options, I imagine. I think you have to.
I had a problem with one thing in that game, and that was the just mine's bigger than yours throw to open our halftime or overtime possession. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I think they were trying to be. I don't know if they're trying to be aggressive or if that was a bad decision by Finley. I think that the play was there. I think it was a bad throw. That was part of it. I think at that point everybody was just kind of demoralized and they didn't rally as well as they could have. But, again, that's nitpicking. I think after you give away the easiest opportunity you'll ever have to win what I see as the biggest game we've ever had, maybe outside of the 2010 Maryland game for the would have put us in the ACC title game.
Oh,
Yeah, right. Told you it's
I'd
the most
already looked at
depressing.
I'd already looked at like Orange Bowl tickets and hotel rooms and
I mean, that was a program changing kick,
yeah.
and it sounds. I don't think you can overstate it. I mean, you make that kick, you beat Clemson at home, you end all kinds of records that they have going, longest home win streak, things like that, and you're in first place in the ACC Atlantic with essentially, I mean, you have some games left, but the next best team on your schedule is Louisville, and we'll get into them a little bit more, but that's why that one just still stings, man. It's been 2 days now, and it's still like sits in my gut. I can't believe we missed that kick.
Yeah, it was pretty much one of the worst sports days of my life.
Yeah.
Um, State and then Tennessee just getting curb stomped after that, and go ahead and add Sunday on, and the Panthers are just terrible. So football is terrible. I don't like it anymore. Just wait till basketball season, man.
uh, I don't want to. I
Yeah,
just, I don't know. I just can't believe you missed that kick. I don't think there's any. I don't second guess any of the coaching. I think it was. Even Huxell had a good game plan, and they executed a good game plan.
yeah. I was kind of shocked looking or saw before the game somewhere, Twitter or something. Like our defense was ranked like 8th overall
Yeah, somewhere
going
in
into that
the
game.
top 15. Yeah,
I
it
mean,
depends on the category, but yeah,
Watson threw for 378, so that took a hit. But um, overall, not bad. I mean,
scoring defense is probably numbers probably still pretty good.
yeah,
And they didn't have a 100-yard rusher. In fact, their leading rusher at 56 yards.
yeah.
I mean,
Mike Williams though, he's gonna play on Sunday.
yeah, I mean he's good. You can't argue that. But I think we did a decent job not letting him blow up. I mean, he had 146 and a touchdown, but he
Could have
didn't
been
do
worse.
anything that would. Yeah, he didn't take over. Right, we've seen guys in that same position with those same numbers have just dominated a game.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't believe I missed that kick, but I guess we have to say it. I don't condone anybody who's talking trash to Bambard or any of that stuff. I mean, that's just you got to grow up. You can't do that. It's just not. I don't know. Be human, right? Just have a heart. Kids got it bad enough. I mean, you can be frustrated with it and with him missing it, but don't like hate the guy, right?
yeah.
I mean,
I want to go
that's just immature,
a little harder and say you're a complete piece of shit if you tweeted stuff to him like that.
right?
Like if you're listening, I hope you don't listen anymore. Because I try and be savage in all aspects of life, but that's it's a kid. Somebody
Right.
tweeting him to slit his own throat. Come on, grow up.
Yeah,
Like you're just a terrible person. So,
I
anyway,
think that's horrible. I did like the UNC kicker tweeted something to Bambard, like supportive. It was a Theodore Roosevelt quote. And I mean, you gotta have a little respect for that, even though he is a Tar Heel, and I have to hate him by law. That's respectable.
oh yeah, it was great. It was.
Yeah,
They're their own little cult of weird people, So
that's right. I guess that's
kickers are
that's the way to put it.
strange.
Yeah,
So, but yeah,
I,
it's good to see.
I mean, I was just frustrated with anybody, but you got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah. You got anything else? I think we need to do like the team and just move on from Clemson.
Well, I guess what I'll say is that I think this week we'll kind of know what it's going to be Dave Jordan's toughest coaching job.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it's going to be the hardest thing to get the guys ready for this week and get them motivated and rebound to go play another excellent team. A team that can score, a team with, by all means, the guy's going to win the Heisman.
Yeah, I was tweeting about that this morning. How it doesn't even have to be a win, but it's got to be competitive. Like you
Right.
do that, and then you play, two top 10 teams 2 weeks in a row. Even if they're L's, if they're competitive, I mean, those are games we weren't in before. So there's progress, but there's going to be a mental roadblock until kickoff Saturday. So
Yeah.
it's just not concentrating on that and getting past it, which is going to be tough.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think it is. It's going to be, I mean, really hard. But at the positive side, I think it shows you how close you are as a program, right? We've we've supported Dave Dorn, right? I think you have to give him his time. And then this year, it's been inconsistent. You can kind of second guess some of the things, but they're a kicker away from being 6-0.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're a 6-0 team, but they're a lot better than we have been, and they're probably a lot better than most people expected to be this year. If you look at the preseason, everybody, even Pack fans, were picking us 6-6.
Right.
But I think we're a better team than that. Whether or not we win that or not,
I mean,
I think
we should be better than 6-6 because if you look, Miami and Florida State aren't what they were a month ago.
right.
So I'm adding two more. There's two more possible wins, even if you lose Saturday. So you're sitting with 3 losses. There's 4 wins still out there.
9-3 is on the table.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's still on the table. So I think the jury's got to still be out. You can't have an agenda and say Dave Dorn's costing us these games. He may or may not be, but he's also put us in a position to be really close in winning that game.
He's put us in the position where we can't make that call right now.
Right, exactly.
So there's no need for that at this time. If the next 3 weeks go awful, then sure, come at it. But
right,
he's earned a break.
Absolutely. He deserves some reprieve from all the criticism, at
Us
least right
included,
now. Yeah, absolutely. The one, well, outside of losing, the other downside of losing like that is that Dave Dorn, let's say going into like the fourth quarter, right? Everybody on social media, and again, we talked about this last week. National media is calling for, like, this is awful calls. How can you not call these things? Or blatant. I mean, it was 13-0 in penalties.
Yeah,
and had we lost that game by like 10, I wish Dave Dorn would have gone to the podium and just said, F you, F Swafford, F the refs. Like, it's completely unfair. They dictated that game. They missed face masks and the pass interference calls. Every one of them went against us. Mike Stevens is playing hard, goes for a ball, pass interference. Same thing that Clemson DB does. Nothing.
Yeah, the one that really hurt was the missed face mask right before the block.
Face
kick.
mask. Yep.
We shouldn't even be kicking. We would have had first and goal.
Put us at. It would have been first and goal, but it would have been first and goal from like the 3.
Yeah. So, that sucks.
Yes, it's so you could just see him just teeing up, like, all right, he's going to go off, right? He can't take this another week. It would have been a chance to kind of defend his team. But now if you do it, you're just kind of a whiny bitch because your kicker missed a 33-yard field goal. So it's like double kicking the balls.
I did see Debbie Al tweet that they always send like a list of what they see as missed calls to the conference. And then I was looking up farther where someone had tweeted that, well, that's not enough. It was awful. And then she just replied, agreed. So there again, there's nothing they can do about it, but
speak up, right? I don't think they're going to fine you, what, 20 grand? Nothing. Debbie will write that out of her budget. Take it. I think it's worth it. At some point, you have to stand up and defend your players, defend your team, defend everybody that you need. All you need is fair treatment.
Yeah.
If you're going to call it on us, call it on everybody else. Because this is, it's not right. Now, the false starts and some of those things, you can't blame anybody else for those. The Clemson defensive line was jumping around like, I don't know what they were jumping around. And I think our guys were just kind of anxious, and it happens, right? It wasn't a big deal with the face masks and the PIs and the big penalties. I mean, that ain't right.
Nope.
It's just not fair, and that's frustrating. When you can change the game like that in favor of the team that's supposed to win, right? I mean, that's how what Steve Logan said. The refs don't intentionally make those calls, but they know who's supposed to win.
Yeah, I usually agree with Steve Logan, but I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was something along the lines of State's just not mature enough to win that game yet, and I just they missed a kick. There's nothing there, man. You're grasping.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying everything he says is right, but that at least that analogy to me it makes it makes sense. I don't know. I don't know what you do with the kicking. I mean, I don't know if Bambard will ever be able to kick again. I mean, if he's mentally, he might be done. Just something like that can fry you. Do you go soccer team, find somebody who can kick? I mean, let Jackson Maples try it.
I just don't know that you got to use somebody on the team.
Yeah. I mean, they have Maples and Haskins, but Haskins cost us the ECU game, indirectly. But I don't know what you do. I don't envy Dorn's position there, that's for sure.
No, but it is what it is. I don't know. It's a shitty situation, and there's help coming, but it's not going to be this year. So.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on from Clemson. I know everybody else is frustrated. Let's just put this one behind us. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Maybe go beat Louisville and kind of make up for it.
Yeah.
I guess that's one way to think of it. I'm stretching here, fellas. I'm trying. Anyway, Louisville this week. We go to Louisville. Do you have any quick thoughts here before we bring in former Louisville walk-on, a very good friend of mine? I think he'll have an interesting perspective here. But what are your quick thoughts? How's this game going to go?
I can't think of a worse matchup. I'm more scared of them than I am Clemson.
I would love to have Boston College this week.
Yeah.
To just rebound from that.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I didn't think we had a chance in Clemson either, but we'll see.
All right, let's bring in my buddy, former Louisville walk-on. You can follow him on Twitter. Biggest Biscuit, maybe the best Twitter handle ever. He talks Louisville, ACC, general hot sports takes, and of course barbecue. Dave Scull, thanks for joining us.
No problem, man. Glad to be on with you.
So I know you watched our game this week, or at least saw what happened. Give us your 10-cent high-level overview from an outsider's perspective.
Man, I was rooting hard for you all. It seems like you ran into what every ACC team seems to run into in Clemson, and that's an unfriendly flag and an unruly crowd. I mean, you guys had the same thing we had going on in the first quarter with the penalties.
Yeah.
The false starts seem to hurt you at the worst possible time. And the stalling in the red zone, those missed field goals. I mean, you guys outplayed them. You know that for 80% of the game, and just took one on the chin. I was rooting for you, man. I initially didn't think we could get Clemson 2 losses, but you guys gave me hope for a while there.
Man, it was close.
It was a rough one. Yeah.
It was. I mean, I
joined the club, dude. We had our own rough one the week before, so you guys hit like a 33-yard field goal and our receiver cuts inside, and we're talking about 2 different games.
Absolutely. God, it's just so painful. All right, let's try to move on. Let's try to move on to happier topics this weekend. Probably the worst matchup possible for NC State following that game. I don't know. We were just talking about, I don't know how you get as emotionally ready for a game like this after a game like that. But as a Louisville fan, what are you expecting?
I have a lot of respect for your squad, and that's not just paying you lip service. I do. Especially your run defense. The best way to stay in the game with us. And this is not talk. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for your team. The best way to render Lamar Jackson human is to stay in your lanes and to keep contained. So if you have edge discipline and lane discipline, you can at least frustrate the kid to a degree. What I'm looking for, and the thing that I watch most of the time, being a former offensive lineman, as mediocre as I was, is the matchup in the trenches. Our offensive line, for the most part, has been really solid this year. But like I said, if you're playing against Lamar Jackson and our read option, if you can keep lane discipline and edge discipline, you can at least make hay with us. And I know you all are doing really well against the run this year, and frankly on defense in general. So that's the matchup I'm looking at.
I think that's right. I know fans weren't sure what to expect because we've kind of been all over the place competition wise and inconsistencies. But I think after watching the Clemson game, I think there's people need to realize that our defensive line is actually pretty good, and it is going to be an interesting matchup. I feel like we've played Louisville close to the last few years, albeit you've won them both and pulled away. But I think the games have been pretty good from what I remember.
Absolutely, yeah, they were. Obviously our squad is a lot different than last year. Because of several factors, but the two things that were our biggest question marks last year were our offensive line and our quarterback position. One has been obviously very publicly sewn up and dealt with by Lamar Jackson, who is, I'm not going to, spend the whole time talking about him, but he is just as good as you've heard he is, but he is young. So basically, Lamar, I've never seen anybody do things on the football field that he's done, especially as a 19-year-old kid. But between him and our 5 offensive linemen that have started every game together this year, it's been a night and day from the last 2 years. We had a rotating door at quarterback the last 2 seasons, and an offensive line that either didn't start more than 2 or 3 games in a row together, or they oftentimes had at least 1 or 2 knuckleheads on the field at a time. So constant penalty issues. Our center, Tobias Hughley, who's actually had a decent season this year, had, I think, no less than 16 false starts as a center last year, and that's a serious feat. I've never seen anything like it. Snap infractions, false starts, you name it. But we've cleaned most of that up this year. We're still a penalty-ridden team. I think we're in the top 25, top 30, and most penalized teams in the country. I attribute most of that to our game at Clemson, but that's just me being a salty fan.
I think we're right there with the most penalized teams. I think we look up those numbers, we're probably right next to you, which is really strange.
I know it drives Bobby crazy. So.
Well, I'm going to have one more Lamar Jackson comment before we get into the rest of Louisville, but I saw Feinbaum tweeted out something earlier today. It was a blind quarterback comparison. It was J.T. Barrett, Deshaun Watson, and somebody else. And when he actually revealed who it was 3 other quarterbacks. And at the very bottom it said, but Lamar Jackson is like 10 times better than the rest of them, and had all his numbers. And it was just blown away. It was absurd. It wasn't even close.
He has, I think, 30 total touchdowns now in the year, and that's after 7-2 last Friday. Obviously, the Duke game was a little bit of it almost was like an aberration for the rest of the season. But honestly, you've played against Cutcliffe before. You know how good of a coach he is.
Right.
He slowed the pace down. I want to give them all the credit in the world. We made mistakes, especially early. Lamar sometimes, as good as he is, he tries to do a little too much, I think. We run the read option for it's not our primary offense. We have a varied spread system and a pro system. Bobby uses everything. He uses two back, he uses double tights, he uses spread, he uses pretty much any formation you can think of. But when we run that read option, a lot of times Lamar, his first instinct is always to take it himself. And there were at least 3 different situations in the first and second quarter where if he hands the ball over to Radcliffe, Radcliffe's is still running. I mean, that's just basically it. So he has a tendency to sometimes misread the read option, and his other kind of Achilles heel is he gets antsy in a clean pocket, if that makes sense to you all. He sometimes he'll be sitting there for 3 or 4 seconds in an absolute clean pocket. He instead of stepping up in it, his first instinct is either take a step back or to even break the pocket, and it oftentimes gets him in trouble. That's really the only complaints I have against. Honestly, I can't even call them complaints. They're minor. They're minor, just nitpicking. But those are the things that he can work on in the off season or even get better at before December. But I mean, the kid's really unreal. I hate to just sit here. It's not going to be the Lamar Jackson love fest, but he's a lot of fun to watch. I don't know how much fun he is to watch as an opposing fan, but you'll get a chance to see him up close on Saturday.
I mean, I've tuned in to watch Louisville games. I mean, just to see him. So it's not far-fetched to say because he is that good, and he's that mesmerizing to watch. It's kind of unbelievable.
It's a lot of fun to have him in our uniform.
I could only imagine. So give State fans who are a couple other guys, maybe on the offense or defense side of the ball, that we should pay attention to that are going to have an impact in this game, not named Lamar Jackson.
Guys not named Lamar Jackson on offense, you're looking at – and here's the thing. We were pretty loaded last year, and it was really frustrating to not have a quarterback that can deliver the ball. But having him at quarterback really opens up options. Brandon Radcliffe at running back has had a phenomenal season. He's still averaging about 8 yards a carry, which sounds stupid, but it's legit. 8 yards a carry and 99 yards a game. Jeremy Smith had a big game against Duke, had a big 80-yard run. But the one that you really need to look for is Cole Hicatini. The guy's a touchdown machine. He's only got 3 this year, but he's a constant threat. He's a do-it-all tight end, 6'5", 245. The guy's a pro prospect and just an electric tight end, great receiving tight end. And, of course, we have a really deep receiving core. I think we have 9 receivers on the depth chart that are 6'3" or above, which is an asinine number. But you look at Jalen Smith, James Quick, who had the unfortunate – you've probably heard his name because he was the one who cut outside instead of inside because he thought he had the first down against Clemson. But he's a great player, and he's catching a lot of undue heat because of that. But he's just had the unfortunate circumstances being the GOAT against Clemson. 2 years ago, he thought he had the touchdown and got ran down from behind, and then this year he cut outside 1 yard short. But he's a great player. Reggie Bonifan's kind of a utility knife, and those are really the big names on offense. On defense, best player on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion, is D'Angelo Brown. He's a space-eating nose tackle. The guy is humongous. He's one of the strongest players in college football, and what he allows us to do, we play kind of a hybrid 3-4 or 4-3, mainly 3-4. He allows the rest of the front seven to operate in space, which is good. We've got guys like Keith Kelsey and Stacey Thomas that can make plays because D'Angelo Brown's eating up 2-3 blockers on every play. On the exterior, linebacking positions, outside linebackers, we've got Devontae Fields and James Hearns, who's had a breakout season. They're great pass rushers, especially Hearns. He's really had a great year. Fields is yet to have his breakout game. After last year, he had a 5-game stretch where he he really blew up at the end of the year after Trevion Young got hurt. He became one of the premier pass rushers in the league and in the country. We were expecting big things out of him this year. Hasn't really panned out yet, but he's a prototypical outside linebacker pro prospect, and he's a game changer regardless of whether he's getting to the quarterback or not. My personal favorite player to watch on defense, and probably one of the 5 best players on the team, is Jair Alexander. He's an impact corner and also one of the best return men we've had in Louisville in years. He had 2 picks against Clemson, and the kid, when he's having a game, he's just active. He's all over the place, sideline to sideline. He's great in coverage. He's great in run support. He's just an awesome football player all around. Our safeties are solid. Josh Harvey Clemson. Josh Harvey Clemens. Slip of the tongue. I still haven't gotten over that game. Josh Harvey Clemens is a 6'5", 235-pound strong safety. You would think he'd be the best player on our defense, but he kind of slips in and out of mediocrity at times, depending on what type of offense we're playing and what kind of defense we get to run against him. He's good in zone, and he's good when he doesn't have to cover a large expanse in coverage, and he's decent in run support. Then we got Chucky Williams, who basically you're either scoring against Chucky or you're gonna die. He's an all or nothing safety. He's coming for your heart every time he tackles you. So you're gonna die or you're gonna score. It's basically the byline on Chucky. But yeah, the defense is solid, man. It's top 10 in total defense. But you got the old adages on Todd Grantham. He's somehow puts up these numbers that look like elite defenses, and they are for the most part, but tend to be very frustrating to watch. We'll have breakdowns like against Clemson at the end of the game when it just looked like nobody knew the coverage, and just
right.
We've had our fair share of frustrations with him as D coordinator, but you can't argue with his overall results.
So I'll back up a second to the wide receivers. If I remember correctly, there were 16 wide receivers who have caught passes this year. That's absurd.
Yep.
That's a crazy number. And this is a kind of an outsider's perspective. One, I didn't think James Cook was that close to getting that first down, so I'm not sure why he was getting too much heat. I mean, maybe he could have got it, but it would have been like a tremendous effort. So, fans will be fans, but I think that might have been a little bit unjust.
Yeah. The thing with that play, and I won't rehash it too much, is it's really painful. But with James, it appeared to us, because it's not an effort. The guy wants to win. He's been catching. Some people are questioning his effort. They're questioning his desire, and I truly believe he thought he had the first. He just didn't know which yard marker he needed to get to. I think he was a full yard short, but I do think the lane was there on the inside. I'm not saying it would have been easy. There were 2 other defenders closing, but he had a shot at it. He just misunderstood his place on the field. It happens, especially when you have a false start penalty the play before. He probably had a certain amount of yardage in his mind where he needed to get to, and that changed. You just never know what you're thinking about when something like that happens. So I refuse to give the kid a hard time.
Right.
He's had an all conference type year, and he's a local kid. He's been good to us. We need to be good to him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's the crazy thing is none of the wide receivers, at least none of the top 10 wide receivers in Louisville, are averaging less than 10 yards a catch.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Numbers, especially after the first couple weeks, the numbers have been video game-like.
Yeah. I mean, that Charlotte game was absurd. So is it true, and it's kind of another outsider's point of view, I feel like Louisville has had a lot of drops with their wide receivers. Is that something that's been a problem?
Yeah. Especially early in the season, Syracuse was ridiculous. I mean, we put up, I think, 800 yards offense or close to that, and we had 8 to 10 drops. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility for us to get 1,000 yards offense in that game, was ridiculous. But that's what we were looking at, and it was guys that last year it really wasn't an issue with. Jalen Smith, Cole Hicatini had a couple of drops in that game, and things that they weren't really an issue with last year. But then last week against Duke, we had 3 or 4 dropped balls as well, and it's not all on the receivers. Lamar's had some accuracy issues, especially he's almost uncomfortable when he's in the pocket. Like I said earlier, in a clean pocket, and a lot of times if he's got a clean pocket and a receiver running free, which you would think is a quarterback's dream, it's almost like Lamar would rather have a pass rush in his face and a small window to throw it into, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know
I
what
mean, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense.
Some quarterbacks are just like that, and he's kind of got to get used to being a successful pocket passer as well as being phenomenal on the run.
So I got 2 more, and I'll let you get back to your Jets game.
Please don't.
So
don't have 4 or 5 more.
If NC State is going to win this game, what are they going to have to do?
You can't turn the ball over, first of all. It's going to be a noon kick. The crowd will be it's a kegs and eggs crowd, so it'll be decent. We'll have 55,000 people in there, but it'll be late arriving. You can make hay in the first quarter before everybody gets their seats. But don't turn the ball over. Like I said, edge discipline is everything against Lamar Jackson. Edge discipline. And what I mean by that, and I'm sure you all know that, you watch a ton of football, set the edge, defensive ends, keep contained, don't get deep or stay as deep as the deepest back, make Lamar beat you inside the pocket, which is where he's almost the least effective. If Duke did the best job of that this entire season, and that's saying something. He still had 142 yards rushing against them and 330 yards total offense, but that was his worst game of the year. And their entire game plan was keep the ball, keep contained, and keep the ball out of Lamar's hands. So if you follow the David Cutcliffe school of thinking, you're going to slow the ball down. Doran's going to take all the time he can between plays, get a 9 or 10 minute drive in there, and just the fewer possessions Lamar has the ball, the tighter he's going to get, the tighter our entire offense is going to get, and the less damage he can do. So ball control, no turnovers, keep contained, edge discipline. That's pretty much it.
That sounds easy.
Right, just like that.
So the Vegas line has now moved to 20. Where are you putting your money?
Back up to 20 now?
Yeah, Pack gets 20 in this one.
This town took it on the chin last Friday. I think we were favored by
34.
35.
Yeah, it was my lock of the week.
Was it? Which side did you take?
I took Louisville and given the points.
I'm sorry, man. Go to the rest of the town. You should hear these call-in shows. They're calling and predicting scores. They were like, it was 73-10 was like the meme, I think. But you can't blame them because until the Clemson game, that's exactly what was happening every week. So what are you going to do, But like I said, I have a lot of respect for NC State. I think you guys have a good enough defense that we're not going to name our score or anything like that. I think 20 is probably about right, but if you had to press me, I think that you're getting us at a bad time, if that makes any sense. The week after the Duke game, you're on the road, you just had an emotionally draining loss. We just had a reality check or a gut check. I know Bobby didn't like it, and he's a vindictive prick still. So
I like how you're on a first name basis with him.
Hey, we call our coaches by their first name. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Bobby, Ricky, Benny. We go first name here. Sorry, but No, he's still good old Bobby. So he's probably going to try to prove a point this week. I'd say that it's going to be close for a half, and don't hate me, but I think it's probably going to be about 38-17, 41-17 at the end of the game when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think that's
But
fair. I think we talked about it's Dave Doran's biggest coaching challenge. He's got to get the guys ready after that Clemson game, and that's not going to be easy.
That's a tall order. I do think you've got the right guy for the job long term, though. If my opinion means anything to you.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. I lied. I got one more for you. We've talked about it. We talked last week with Scott Russell from Football Scoop, and we talked about it with some other people. Give us the reasons why Petrino is not leaving that job.
Oh, I got a bunch of them.
Yeah, give them to us. I know you and I've talked about it before, but let's let the other people get in on our conversations.
Absolutely. It's probably hard to understand from an outsider, but number one, and this is above all else, it's his family. He has put down roots in Louisville this time. His daughter runs his family foundation. He employs his son and his son-in-law on his staff. His son-in-law is former Louisville player L.D. Scott. Basically, family's the number one. Number two, he's kind of seen the rest of the football atmosphere or the football landscape. And when you've worked for other bosses, you kind of realize that you got it good with Tom Jurich. If you're a good coach, he'll give you whatever you want. You'll get – nobody's going to outspend Tom. I mean, you may not think it with the University of Louisville, but that's not why Charlie Strong left. Charlie didn't want to be at U of L. He wanted to be at a big-name program, a traditional power. Tom was willing to match dollar for dollar, but at the end of the day, he said, you got to want to be here. And Bobby wants to be here. He's seen the rest of the country. He's seen Arkansas. He's seen the NFL. He's seen that the grass is not always greener at a big-name job. You can win at Louisville, and especially if he's seen firsthand this year, he can recruit the level of player he needs to win in the ACC, and the ACC offers a challenge, but not an SEC West type challenge to get into the playoff and the national championship. So those are the main talking points, and basically nobody here is worried about him leaving anytime soon. I think this will be his job. So
yeah, I say that often, and people always second guess me, like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Dude, Louisville, man, they're confident he's not going anywhere," and it makes sense. So I get it. I just wanted you to share with our people, what that perspective is all about.
Absolutely, and we've been burned by as many coaches as anybody. John L. left us. Our players found out at halftime of the bowl game. Bobby the first time, we win the Orange Bowl. He leaves for the Falcons a week later after every flirtation, every offseason. Charlie took us to Sugar Bowl, won the Sugar Bowl, left for Texas, which, I mean, that couldn't be a worse fit,
Right. That's showing its head now.
Yeah. Everybody in Louisville knew that one, man. Charlie hates the media, and that job's all about being a salesman first and a football coach second. So, I don't know. I think they're all wishing they never left. And that's the common theme among every coach that leaves this job is, they can't find one better. Not to say we're the best program in the country. That's not what we're saying. We know our place. It's really that top 10 programs and top 10 jobs are not synonymous. Yeah. And that's something that I think our coaches are learning a little bit more every year, and Bobby's figured that one out. So we think he'll be here for the long haul.
You can get paid pretty much anywhere. If a coach wants to go up to, that next level, it's an ego thing, and they want the spotlight. So it doesn't surprise me if he's been around and seen that he stays at Louisville long term. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every football coach has an ego. For good reason, you have to have an ego to be a successful football coach.
Well, Scull, I'll take enough of your time, man. I appreciate you joining us, and we'll make good on that game. I'm coming to the Louisville game. We're going to hit a bottle of Maker's Mark at some point.
Dude, you are always welcome. You are
I know
always
it.
welcome. We've got a Louisville hospitality for you, man. Just let me know.
It's on
I
the
hope it's been
schedule. I'll get
informative.
there one of these years. I promise.
Yeah, please do.
All right, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. We'll see you on Saturday, huh?
All right, take it
Go
easy.
back.
See ya.
That was Dave Scull. Follow him on the Twitters at Biggest Biscuit. Again, the best Twitter name possible, Biggest Biscuit. Good friend of mine, and totally worth it. Good insight on Louisville there. All right, you heard what he had to say. Let's wrap this up before your haunted room gets the best of you. Bovada has Louisville listed as -20. Dustin, what are you feeling?
When I saw I think it opened at like 18, something like that, and I thought that was way too high. So naturally 20 should seem high, but I don't know, man. That matchup nightmare from a physical standpoint to the possible hangover that we're going to have.
Yeah.
I still think we cover 20. That's a lot. I don't think we're
It is a
a
lot.
bad team now. Plus, I don't know. It depends on how pissed off they are about the Duke deal too. So.
Yeah, Duke played them close, and that's what you heard Dave just talk about. That was, a well-coached team, and I guess they weren't expecting it. And neither was my lock of the week.
Yeah,
Speaking of lock of the weeks,
yeah, let's go ahead and get into that. If you take Evan's advice, you're a poor person now.
I did hit a 5-gamer this week, though. I did win the Office Bowl bet. I'm happy with that. My locks have been awful, though, but I'm turning it around right here. We got 8 more weeks. We're turning it around right here.
So, all right, last week Evan took Louisville -34. That obviously didn't work. Evan improved his record to 0-3 since we started doing this. I went on a limb and took Pitt -3, and turned out to be a pretty good game, actually, with Pitt and Virginia.
That was really weird.
Yeah. So that one brought me up to a record of 1-1-1. So I'm basically where I started. So what you got for the moneymaker this week?
This is it. This is guaranteed. I'm starting it early. But if it's wrong, we still win. I'm taking the Heels and giving 8 points. Heels are favored by 8 at UVA.
Yeah, they should do that, right?
I mean, you would think UVA somehow started scoring, but I think Carolina's better than they are.
Is the game in Florida, though?
That's true. It's not in Florida.
So-
The game is in Virginia,
Yeah.
tropical Charlottesville.
That seems like a good bet.
Yeah, I like that one.
I'm going to go Ohio State -19.5 over Penn State. Penn State's awful.
Is that at home?
I believe it's at Penn State. I could be
Ooh.
wrong on that one, though.
I think Penn State's awful. I'll agree with that. I'm not a huge bet. Give 20 on the road kind of guy.
Maybe. I don't know.
It is at Penn State.
Yeah,
Mm.
I don't know. Michigan dismantled them.
Dustin's coming back to the field, folks.
Is he? You don't like it?
I'm not a big fan of that one.
I'm telling you.
I'm staying away that one.
I want to throw something on that, and then I want to do a parlay involving Ohio State minus the points and NC State plus the points.
Oh, I would love it. Do it. The other one I thought was interesting was Texas Tech plus 14 at home. I know they're not very good, but getting 2 touchdowns at home against Oklahoma is pretty good. Still seems like a lot.
I'd go the other side of that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they just lost to West Virginia.
West Virginia looks tough, man.
They do, surprisingly, considering they were going to fire Holgerson beginning of the year.
Yeah, I wouldn't want any part of them.
Yeah.
But
The
They
one
play
other
Big
comment.
12 defenses. So
That's right. The one other comment I have before we close this out is that Daryl Hazel got fired from Purdue, and the only reason I mention that is because he was one of the 4-ish candidates that was being interviewed for our job and got hired around that same week, actually, at Purdue. The other one was Willie Taggart at South Florida. He's actually doing pretty well. And Sonny Dykes at California, who's, I think their status quo, they're probably 500 at the most. So interesting to watch
they were
these
that
guys.
good.
Cal?
Oh, never mind. Brain dead. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't think they've gotten any better, but yeah, so interesting to watch. Hazel got fired. They're gonna probably join the Les Miles sweepstakes.
You know, that's an interesting spot for him. He's what?
He's
Ohio Big Ten guy.
Yeah, I think so.
I could see it.
It just seems like meh. Like Purdue?
Yeah, but do people outside of us see NC State and say meh?
I guess, but at least you're not in
A shitty part of Pennsylvania.
Purdue's in
Pennsylvania in general.
Purdue's in Indiana, I think,
Is
or
it?
Illinois. Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, that shows how much I know. I'm gonna edit that
I'm pretty
out.
sure it's Indiana. Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's funny. No, I mean you're not in Purdue wherever Purdue is, so I mean I would take Raleigh over that one, but I mean I guess I get it, but still Purdue, no thanks. Les Miles have better opportunities in that one.
Here's your quiz of the day. What is Purdue's mascot?
The Boilermaker.
What's the full title of the mascot?
The full title? I have no idea. It's
the
a
Boilermaker Special.
Oh yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
Well, they turned it into a drink, I believe, but it's a steam engine because they're an engineering school.
Yeah, I know the drink, but I didn't realize it's actually the Purdue Boilermaker Specials, but they don't use it. So
West Lafayette, Indiana. God, I knew it was Indiana. Had to Google that one.
Tuition is $30,900, by the way.
They're a land grant school. Maybe I shouldn't hate on them so much. Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's get out of here. That was good enough this week. No idea what's going to happen. Dave Dorn's got his work cut out for him. Either way, I mean, whatever happens this game, I think I won't say he's got a pass, but it'll be understandable.
Right.
So let's hope for the best. Hope Dustin hits his lines. And talk to y'all next week.
Take it easy. Go Pack.
Go Pack.